Boy, can I help you?
Listen up. I'm bringing you the best content to ever exist in the door-to-door industry, from sales, leadership, recruiting, and personal development.
Well, why would I need that?
Because never before have we been able to collaborate with the top experts in their industries, sharing their secrets and techniques on what makes them the best.
Wait, who are you?
I'm your host, Sam Taggart, creator of the D2D Experts and D2D Con. Is there a place we can sit down?
Well, come on in.
Register today for D2D Con, January 10th through 12th. Learn from over 40 amazing speakers, including the real Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. Come as a team, learn as a team, leave as a tribe.
All right, I'm Sam Taggart, your host with the D2D podcast, and I'm here with Chandler Smith, who has done some phenomenal things in and outside the industry. So he is a regional manager at Aptive Pest Control, right? That's the title? Aptive.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a speaker at Door Con, so we're going to hear from you more. We're excited to obviously hear from that.
Looking forward to it.
Not only has he done 20,000 pest control accounts, which is more than most pest control companies, right? I mean, if you took the next, what company does that? Within a company, you did more than most companies, right?
Yeah.
And you've managed how many reps? I mean, how many is that?
Well, during the summer, 150 to 200 reps every summer, probably 800 plus over the last 5-6 years.
So for all my roofing people that are like, I can't handle them more than 5. Yeah, 150. What's up, Tom? You're the man. So at the end of the day, like, to put things into perspective for some of those people, I mean, that's 150 bodies that you're, babysitting essentially. No, leading, influencing, right? But not only that, he's taken his earnings and lived like a poor man for the last how many years?
A couple, yeah. Starting off
yeah.
the first, I think I lived poor the first 2 or 3 years, but then the real estate started paying for my lifestyle.
So he's taken the rich dad, poor dad concept, and you have how many doors now?
So I just passed 60 doors.
60 plus doors in real estate. So, I mean, somebody's like, hey, why do door-to-door sales? And I'm like, so you can get more doors from doors. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
No, so that's what's cool. And we're going to dive into a little bit of your philosophy and how. And, we just did a podcast on, hey, don't do that, stinker. We just did a podcast on some real estate stuff from Jason the other day. And I want to get a little different perspective because you're coming from our space. So we'll dive into that. And then obviously, like, just your how to do that. I'm like, I do real estate with 60 something doors. I mean, one, that's a lot of headache, and that's a lot of like learning and experimenting and fail. I'm sure there's some cool stories there. So
Yeah.
welcome to the show, man.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, this will be fun. So if you know Chandler, give him a little love and give him a little smiley face, like this, comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. So this is a treat. So the first question I have is, and I always ask this, who recruited you and how'd you get into the space?
I originally started, I was looking around right after serving a mission, and I was trying to figure out, where to go. And James Graves had approached me and a couple of my buddies.
He was my first podcast.
Really?
Very first one. So big shout out to James.
That's super cool. Yeah, so James and Chase Williams were the ones that kind of snagged me in that first year.
How'd you hear, your friends?
So yeah, I had actually had 3 of my buddies that were planning on going to another company with me, and we were all on the fence, and then they introduced me to those guys, and it was kind of game over. We all felt good about it and went that direction.
Okay, so you and are they still doing it, or did they all suck and quit?
They did well, but they're all over the place.
Okay, cool.
So
that'd be cool. It's like a little posse. That's usually the case, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the survival of the fittest.
Totally. No, it's very true. So, and it's funny because I went out with all of them in my first week. I was terrible.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was those first weeks like? Yeah.
Well, in pest, obviously everybody usually gets to sell their first couple days. It's a pretty easy sell for the most part, but I went an entire week without selling. So out of the 40 guys that were in that office,
you're the embarrassment.
I was the only one that didn't have any sales.
How does that feel? Like, a lot of people think the guy that manages 20,000 accounts has never had a rough week or no day. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like what was going through your head, your feeling, like where were you at that first week?
I think I knew I wasn't going to quit. But every day it's like, all right, what's my worst case scenario now? If I keep up my average, I'm still at 0 on the summer. So I really got to get at least 1 under the belt. So it was just, I don't know, you're thinking worst case scenarios. And then things clicked for me. After a week, I got one sale. And
Oh,
it was
congratulations.
like, yeah. So at the end, day 7, one sale, and then everything flipped. So within an hour from that first sale, I had 4.
Oh, wow.
It just kind of,
boom.
yeah.
How many did you do that first summer?
So I did 459.
Oh, wow. First
So-
summer, 459 accounts. That's a lot. So the average pest control rep, for those that don't know, is probably what?
Probably nowadays 150 to 180.
Yeah, that's crazy. So fast forward, you're like, hey, I'm going to manage. Did you get right into management, or did it take you a while? Obviously.
It took me a minute. So the first summer, so Chase Williams had the rookie rep record, and I ended up breaking his record at Altera by 3 accounts. And yeah,
That's that motivation. I love that.
So I stayed right till the end and I pushed hard. So when I came back, I was just on fire. I was stoked to do it again. So I got a team of probably 12 to 15 guys. And that summer went good, but that was, out of every summer I've done, the hardest summer. Just because I brought out a lot of people that now I probably wouldn't have brought now.
I was going to say, first year managing kicks you in the nuts.
Yeah, and you take everything personally,
Yep.
and you're still trying to sell really well. And so it was the hardest summer I've ever done. But I feel like because of that experience, it kind of propelled me into everything. So I pulled out a couple incredible guys from that summer that ended up leading teams and just kind of took off. So every year we were growing. I feel like my first 5 or 6 years I was getting 100% growth every year because things were just blowing up. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Hey, what's up? After this, yeah. So I'm here with my daughter. We're doing this in my house, everybody. So we've been playing sick. Tom, what's up? He's Tom Karen. He's
He's awesome.
Yeah, Don. Okay, so the next question I have. You wrote an article. Tell us about this article. And I think a lot of people in the door-to-door industry saw that. I was actually shocked at how much hype this got. So what was it called? I can't remember the title.
I think it was just I Am a Summer Salesman or something like that. I don't remember the title.
But it was so I'll put it so I Am a Summer Salesman. He writes this like blog post that kind of went door to door viral, I would call this, and it was so inspiring because and I want you to tell us a lot more about it, but essentially it was embodying this new movement, this new mission to take some pride. It's like coming out of the closet and essentially I'm a door-to-door salesman and I own that. You know what I mean? It's like I finally accepted the title of that, or I'm a summer salesman where, in Utah County, it's like, oh, I don't date summer salesmen. Or, oh, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's a sweet bro. Or like, whatever. You know what I mean? There's like this weird negative connotation, or like, I don't want to tell my uncle that I knock doors because that's embarrassing. So like, you wrote this article and it was around this whole concept of like owning that. Tell us a little bit about kind of your theory behind it and a little bit more into that article.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a day after I was at church and I was in a new ward and people were asking me what I did, and I realized I literally was ashamed to try and somehow tell them what I had done. And it had always been that way when people would ask, when family, relatives, all of that. And so it just reached a point where I was like, you know what, forget this. I mean, I've got a ton of guys that I feel like I've really been able to impact their lives. This job puts you where you want to be so much faster. It's making it so kids aren't in school debt. It's making it so they can get into real estate, start businesses. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm just going to own it. Like, I'm sick of people not being willing to own it because this job is the best job in the world. It literally is. And so,
Amen, baby! Yes! Love it.
Yeah, and so I put the article together, and I really wanted people to understand that, first of all, we're not jerks. We're not a lot of the things that people think that we are, but we are very skilled, we're talented, we're hardworking, we've got a lot of finesse. I mean, all of the skill set that is summer sales, I wanted people to understand because it really is an incredible industry, and anyone that takes advantage of it, whatever they do in life, whether they stay in this or do something else, they do it way better than their competitors because of the experience they had here.
It's so true. And it's like you kind of went through debunking these myths. Like, you have to be dishonest. It's like, no, you don't. Like, I know a bunch of very honest people that go door to door. Or what were some of these other myths that you kind of debunked to the world, I guess?
I think, first of all, that honesty, integrity, and it's like, no. I mean, the guys, you know this from experience, the guys that are dishonest fail. They really do.
And their life, I think that their lifeline or the life expectancy of their career in door-to-door is actually shorter at that point.
Totally. I mean, you can go a period of time and find success in sales being dishonest, but it can't last because it starts to eat at those reps, and they don't retain recruits. They don't retain accounts.
They lose trust. Yeah, exactly.
And so that was a big one I wanted to get rid of. The other one is the tool mindset.
Wait, you're saying you're not a tool? I'm a tool. Just kidding. I don't have good muscles. I did sit-ups this morning.
and that's the thing is I don't know. I feel like people talk about doctors and lawyers, and I really tried to say it in the right way in the article. Yeah. But I was frustrated that a doctor can drive a nice car and live a nice lifestyle.
And have muscles, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong for aspiring to have a good body? It's like, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger's an idiot too. He's a tool.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, all of these things that in any other job, they're looked up to.
Yeah.
There's something to aspire to. But in this job, you're a tool. If you found success, if you have a nice house, if you can take care of your family the way you want to, if you can reach your dreams and your goals.
You can build a real estate portfolio of 60 homes by the age of how old, 30. It's like, oh, I'm sorry that I did that.
Totally.
But why does society call that tool? Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of times people think that we are irresponsible because we are young. I think it's a young group of people. But the thing that's so cool is I think this job forces a lot of people out of youth. And some of them do it. It
makes you grow up fast.
It really does. And some of them don't handle that well. But there are tons of doctors and lawyers and everything else that don't handle that well.
And they had to do it after med school. So they're just even in their 30s, but they're still young in like business and actual career mode. And
definitely.
It still hits them.
Yeah, and what people don't understand is, I have the lifestyle I want. And even now with my region, I still go knock doors. I still have people tell me that I'm scum and X, Y, and Z. And so I really feel like when it comes to looking at income in comparison to humility, we're the greatest group of people because we're willing to humble ourselves and deal with that on a daily basis. And so if nothing else, I'm not trying to put us above other people. I just think we should at least be right there,
I do too. It's like, the whole speech I gave at Door-to-Door Con last year was around like D to D, B to B, B to C, C D, XQR to the Q, like whatever it is. I'm just like, it's everybody's knocking on doors. Like I think the next book I want to write is more general to the world, and it's like you knock doors, like everyone knocks a door, and I think it's just so funny that our avenue is so frowned on. When it's like, why wouldn't you frown on the guy that's posting a Facebook ad? It's like, how terrible, how low of you. He's trying to get your business. You know what I mean? What a terrible ad. Just pop up. You're just scum. Trying to sell something. Like Home Depot. The lady today at Office Depot was like, hey, you should get this extra protection plan. I'm like, you scum. you low life person. No, she's an Office Depot. She's just handing me a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's like so funny. And I just like, it was that feeling of you being around this group of non-door knockers and you just feeling that shame. It's like we all go through that. And it's just like, how do we help inspire everyone else to just say, you don't have to feel that. Like we're a tribe and it's okay that we do what we do, and let's help society see that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was glad that that's what kind of got you on my radar. I was like, oh, this guy's legit. Like, what a cool article. I shared it like that. So kind of let's move into like the real estate game, because and then I have a couple questions on recruiting. Well, let's actually go recruiting and then real estate at the end. So if you're listening to this, it's one, how do you get 150 reps? I mean, Brent Draper owns a pest control company who's on this right now. I mean, we've had multiple owners, and it's like, how do you, I know many people that would die. They would give their left arm for 150 reps. You know what I mean? It's like, what have you done and some just good best practices to grow at that rate? You know, I'm sure it's not easy, but if you had to give advice to an up and coming manager, an owner, or something like that, what's helped you get there?
You know, I would love to say it's all me and it's what I've done, but honestly, I grabbed onto all the right people. I mean, the people within my region are on a higher level than I am most of the time.
That's a cop out. James Graves said the same thing, but technically you're James Graves' dude, so technically, freak, man. You just keep giving credit to your people below you. Screw
But
you.
seriously though,
no,
like,
it's true. It's true.
And I think a lot of times it's just grabbing onto the right people and then taking care of them. I think it's easy to get caught up. I mean, this is an industry where tomorrow matters a lot, and you've got to get somebody close today. You got to get your reps. You got to get ready for the summer. And I think just remembering to take care of your people.
Yeah.
Because so much of the growth and the value and everything else, I really do feel like I've worked hard to take care of my people, and that's been reciprocated. I mean, the more you give, I feel like it always comes back tenfold, and that's been a huge advantage. And then I think putting in the time. You can grab onto someone great, but if you're not willing to consistently work your butt off for them, then that's not going to work. And so the perfect combination of the right people and being willing to work harder than anyone else so that your reps are willing to fall in line and follow and want to be a part of that.
So I think you said something that's super important, because why do a lot of leaders want to recruit? What's their motivation?
I think a lot of people are motivated just for the money or for them or for the wrong things.
Yeah, and then you notice that it's the wrong motive. It's either that, or they say, well, I just want a bunch of busy bees to go do it, and then I want to sit back and kind of make money off of my busy bees.
It is so true, and I think that's something that's been way hard for me. This was the first year I didn't go out in the summer, and I struggled, man. It was a harder summer than the other summers because these are my friends. These are the guys I love, I care about. And obviously I was still traveling for 2 months of the summer. But yeah, I mean, leadership and holding on to guys, it's just being there with them. It's doing everything you can. It's sharing those experiences. And that's why I mean, it sounds funny, but my guys are just the best, and they're all on the same level that I am. And I think that's a huge difference.
Big shout out if you're listening, people. You got a great leader here. So then the next question would be, we had this conversation. This is so interesting because we were just jamming, and this like sparked a new topic that we don't talk a lot about on this. The dilemma, the inner dilemma that you've witnessed yourself and watched others deal with is this: if I go 2 feet in, it's playing this game of like, what's my exit strategy versus my like 2 feet in strategy, right? And it's this balance between guys that are successful and not successful in this. At what point in the game did you kind of just go, I'm 2 feet in and here's why I'm doing it, versus, oh, I'll do this for a summer to pay for school? Where was that shift in your career?
I think when I realized that I wasn't going to find something that I loved or was as good at as I was at this. Mm-hmm. And I think that just clicked with, really for me, it was when I saw some of my guys hit that next level. I mean, when you've got guys that you care about, that you've seen struggle their first year, and they're making $200,000 plus, and they're starting to invest, and they're starting to take care of people and change their lives and build teams and do things even with their team that maybe you didn't do on that next level, that was where it was like, man, this is special. Because it's easy to be all in knocking doors. I mean, it's easy to love that. But it is 10 times easier to love recruiting and taking care of your people and seeing them be successful. I feel like that was when it's like, look, there's nothing I'm going to do that's going to be more fulfilling than this. This is awesome.
So it's so funny because it's like you talk about door knocking as fulfilling, or people skill in managing and seeing and inspiring. And then our off-camera topic or convo was like, so many people aspire to be you, right? How many places have you traveled in the last few years? How many, I want to own real estate. Well, every American wants that, right? I want to, be able to drive whatever I want and work when I want, right? And have that flexibility, yet they're working as a bank teller, 9 to 5, right? And it's like, and then they shun the people like us that are doing that, yet not willing to do what we do, you know what I mean? And so many people have this exit strategy. They're like, well, I'm going to do door to door so then I can one day get a normal career that's more sustainable. But what they're doing is stepping out of a lifestyle that is really like the best ever. I mean, income wise, like you said, this is the best job. And I almost want to talk on just for a second, like, how do we overcome that mentality of like, well, one day when I, move on, or I'm going to get a real job one day, like how have you helped sell your guys on a vision to do this longer than maybe just a summer intern, or you know what I mean? Like, you see what I'm getting at?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is, why are you doing what you do? So many people want the job because they want a certain lifestyle. And I think when they really sit back and look at it and say, holy cow, I could have this lifestyle 10 years earlier if I just really buckled in and invested in this. And I think that's the thing that's interesting, is the sky's the limit in this job. And I really feel like that's the only thing that messes with people, is they don't know how hard they should push themselves, how far they should go. Where in a job, it's simple to say, well, at least I know this is as hard as I have to push, and 15 years from now,
and I'm not going to get fired, and I can survive. And
when I just love pushing, look, you have the opportunity to get whatever you want. I heard a quote just recently of a guy that said, take what you want in 10 years and find a way to make it happen in 6 months. And there are only so many vehicles that can help you do that. And this is one of them. I mean, it really is.
And I think that's probably, having that mindset is probably what gave you, got you to 150 dudes, where some people have been doing this for 20 years and still have 5 guys. And it's like, I think a lot of times people don't realize that they have the gas pedal and the ability to press harder or softer, and they're playing victim. They don't realize that they're controlling whether it happens in 6 months or 10 years, right? They're going, oh, that's impossible. Oh, that's him. I would never be able to do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, everybody could go get 150 sales dudes and do 20,000 accounts. Like, you're no different than them. You know what I mean? It's just, you pressed on the gas pedal faster than they did. And it's because you said, I'm committed to what? The rich dad, poor dad thing. Like, how have you used, and this is what's interesting, and this is where I'm going to segue, because how have you utilized your obsession with real estate and building a passive income to motivate you in your current job?
So I think for me, after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and other books, everybody wants to feel safe. Do you know what I mean? And so I really wanted to build that safety net of real estate. I wanted to get a passive income that I knew year after year I could live off of. And so early on, I did live way more frugally. I mean, I didn't even move into a house till the last 2 years, after doing the first 5 years of PES, still living in an apartment and keeping the car that I had, and all of those things I didn't upgrade until my passive income could pay for them. Because I knew my passive income wasn't going anywhere.
It was secure.
It
was your safety.
Exactly. And so all of my active income, all of the money that I would make from sales, I would pour into real estate. And so then my bare minimums got covered with real estate. And now I'm to the point where real estate is paying for those things that I've always wanted, that are part of my dream lifestyle that I waited for because I knew it was set. And the thing that's so cool about that I've realized, is now all that I do, I mean, I really feel like now I have that lifestyle, but all that I do with pest control and with sales is for the right reasons, because I don't need the money. There's not more things that I want, but I love helping guys get to that level.
Yeah, it's more exciting. Real estate's boring. It's like, what am I going to do? Drive by the house and be like, yeah, what's up, Tommy? Hope all's well. You know what I mean? Yeah. You paying your rent this month? It's like, no, like, that's boring. Like, what you're doing is exciting. Like, it's energizing, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that a job is boring, or what they think they want is boring. And what scares them about this is that it's commission. Every day they've got to show up. But you shouldn't, because it's what they love. It's what they're good at. And they don't have to get into that monotonous thing every day.
Well, I think this is what's interesting, is it's this paradox or parody, or what, I don't even know what the word, conundrum, internal debate is, why do people want to exit strategy in this job? Well, because they're like, how long can I keep up this lifestyle? I've always been on the road, and my wife getting home at midnight, or, you know what I mean, recruiting up at night. Like, I think a lot of people fear, like, I don't know how long I can keep this up, right? So then their fear is, they're like, what am I going to do after this? But they never commit to the job fully to build the passive income to replace, to where they do this from choice versus necessity. And it's kind of that difference that you were just pointed out, was you do this job because you want to and you choose to, versus how many sales reps do you have or know or have worked with. It's like they're trying to still live the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle versus like the ownership and of like, I run a business lifestyle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Because how do you help somebody have that shift? Like, that's the thing, is like, you've obviously helped a lot of people because you've led so many people and they have teams and teams, right? But like, what do you do to inspire them to see that shift from you're not a W-2 to you're a business owner and you have the opportunity to accelerate that from 10 years to 6 months?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is perspective, honestly. I feel like we are, I don't know, we think that certain things are bad or we build them up to be bad, where I can tell you in all honesty, me and my wife, we missed not being out there this summer, being in a city, being around our friends, being in that experience, and we still got it when we traveled, but everything has to do with perspective. And I think you can always change your perspective and you can always look at things different, where there are so many accountants, lawyers, I mean, people I know in their profession that if I went up to them right now and I said, hey, what if you just added an extra 5 to 10 hours a week of work to your schedule now, but you only had to do it for 4 months instead of the whole year, and you would have a bigger income than you have right now. I think
that puts things into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, everyone and their dog would say, are you crazy? I would take that in a heartbeat. And then you say, well, okay, it's knocking doors, and that might change things from their perspective.
Yeah, but you put it in that light.
But yeah, you put it in that light, and it's like, who doesn't want to spend 8 months enjoying their life, living their lifestyle, and having the opportunity to live in a different city every single year, experience different things.
You have to move.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you get to move. Like, it's just a perspective.
Totally. And I think there's so many positives too, where you put me in an argument, I think there are a lot of things where you could argue that 4 months will be better for you, for your relationship, for all kinds of things in your life than the alternative.
Versus shedding the perspective of, it's going to be hell all summer, you're never going to see your wife, it's going to be the worst experience for her in the planet, versus like, no, like, if you manage your time right and, you know, the experiences that you have on Sundays in the morning, you know what I mean? Like,
totally
shifting the perspective. It's like, yeah, you're going to attract a lot more people. Yeah, it's going to have a lot more positivity to that outcome. Like, I love that. It's all perspective.
Well, and with pest control, I mean, we work till half day on Saturday and then we have Sunday off. I can tell you the funnest things that I've done in my life.
Where you don't do that
with my friends, with my wife. Yeah, I mean,
where do you get a group of like 30 cool dudes in a city?
Yeah,
that you get
and
to go
you've
like
got 6 hours to do something just incredible. I mean, those experiences nobody can touch.
And that's probably a sacred Saturday night. It's like, what's the Saturday night?
Totally.
It's different every Saturday.
Yeah,
versus my Saturday nights, it's like, what do you want, dinner and a movie? You know what I mean? And that's probably how most Americans live. It's like it's the mundane. Well, same weekend as last weekend, I guess. Where it's like it forced you to kind of like sacred those 6 hours or whatever. Because I went to the bank, so I was telling you this earlier. It's like this morning I go to the bank. And I see the same banker I see every time. It's like, what's up, Dallin, if you're watching this? And I don't even know if we're Facebook friends. But anyway, he's about our same age. It's like, uh-oh. He doesn't even know I have a podcast. So it's okay. Anyway, he comes and he's like, man, like, how are your 7 businesses or whatever? You know what I mean? I was like, oh, that's crazy. But he's like, yeah, my life's just kind of deja vu. And I was like, I would shoot myself. You know, go to work, come home, put the kid to bed, repeat. And I was
do it all over again.
Wow, like that's the other perspective. It was kind of like his perspective, and he also was trying to like almost say that was the good thing. And I was like, my perspective of that is like, oh my gosh, shoot me, please. I was like, every day is different, right? Like, and it was interesting talking about perspective because it was just kind of like, man, but we idolize the normal job after getting our butts kicked all day in the summer, right? And then all of a sudden, go to that normal job and you'll come run back. Like,
so true.
You will. And I think getting our reps to understand that, like, think about it. I'm sure you've helped like people shift their entire paradigms. And now, if I told you, hey, go get a normal job and come work for me at the bank, what would you tell me?
Yeah, there's no way.
It's really jump off a cliff.
Yeah,
no offense to those working at the banks, but...
And the thing that's interesting is I think even looking at that job, even if it did pay what this job paid, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it really is hard to understand why we get the rep that we do because this opportunity is incredible. And it really does propel you. That's the other thing that's cool is you don't have to do this forever if you want. You can experiment. But with sales, you've always got that skill set and you've always got something that you've had success with that you can fall back on. There's no other job like that. And if you want to go try a job, go for it. But like you said, they're going to come back. And I've seen so many guys even this year that have taken a couple year break and they're like, heck, man, I was wrong. I don't have money and I hated this job way worse. Like they used me, they abused me. I had no value. And I just think there's no better place than here.
I love this. So if you're a manager and you're watching this is one you got to send to all your recruits that are questioning whether they should sell or not. I mean, seriously though, think about it. Like if everybody sent this to that future recruit or, the guy that's on the fence, he's like, I don't know, man. My brother's telling me I should go work in SEO marketing for it. You know what I mean? It's like, I would want to just say, go listen to this and then tell me whether you wanted to go do that or not. Like, This is the perfect podcast for that. So then now let's shift gears a little bit and kind of finish up with, I just got my back end check, or, maybe I'm a manager and I've made good money and I've always wanted to get into real estate. I guess what were some of the first steps you took that were like, it helped you just kind of, it clicked and you did it, and is it as hard as you thought? Like, give us some tips on that.
I think the biggest issue people have with real estate is just consistently grinding on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got guys that'll go out and sell pest control or security or whatever they're doing, and they're okay going a month without making any money. I mean, that happens in our industry in certain areas, or making very little money, having very little success. And yet guys that look into real estate, they'll look into it for a couple hours and be like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, they're like, oh man, I have to figure out numbers and find a house. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, yep, in order to make a lot of money. It's like
part of the plan.
That's just part of it,
Yeah, and so, I mean, get a couple good books.
What's your favorite real estate book?
Rich Dad Poor Dad is always going in the first, but the Four Quadrants of Investing or something like that by Robert Kiyosaki. The ABCs of real estate investing is gold because it's super simple, gives you step-by-step process.
Oh, that's nice.
And yeah, those are big.
Have you had like a mentor or?
I think that's big as well. And
yeah,
I think
it's like, is there somebody that kind of coached you through like, hey, let me help you get your first couple? Or
yeah, so there's a guy named David Collette. He was one of my buddy's dads, and he was so helpful. Like, really helped me see that debt wasn't bad. You can use it, you can leverage. Yeah. That's a big thing I'm pretty passionate about.
Yes.
And also just that it's not risky if you know what you're doing. I mean, the more educated you are, the less risk there is.
Yeah, so I think step one is invest in education and find your team that's you can trust and good advice.
Yeah. Well, and a mentor is huge. The thing I've realized, so I started that YouTube channel, and I have so many people reach out to me that they haven't done any research. They're just like, look, teach me how to invest in real estate. A mentor doesn't want to help you if you haven't put in time.
No,
go read at least 3 to 5 books and then approach a mentor because you know what you're talking about. You don't look like an idiot.
Yeah, because he's going to give you advice. He's like, okay, make sure your cap rate's between 6 and 8. And you're like, what's a cap rate? And then he's like, okay, what's your cash on these deals? He's like, I don't even know how to assess the deal. You know what I mean? Where these books are going to give you the basic principles of how to calculate a cap rate, how to access this. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
And I think those conversations are a little bit more effective because you know what you know instead of you don't know what you don't know.
And you can totally burn someone who could be a killer mentor for you because you don't value their time.
And here's the worst thing you can do too, going to a mentor. Like, it's so funny. My dad was a land developer. I mean, he built Pilgrim's Landing, Deer Mountain, some of these big, and I go to him and he was like, I'll point you in the right direction, but I'm not going to do it for you. You go figure it out and then come to me and say, am I doing it right? And I was like, really? And I was like, yeah, can I use your license? He's like, no, go get a realtor. It's like, what? Get a realtor? He's like, yeah, it's worth your money to pay a realtor. And I was like, what? Anyways, I was like 3%. Like, so it was interesting. So these little things, so I went to some other, mentors and stuff like that. But what's interesting when you say that is a mentor will take you much more serious when you're really willing to actually do something about it too. Because it's like the second I was like, no, here is my money. Like, go, like I want to do this, versus so many people, how many they come to you and say, real estate sounds sexy, teach me how to do it, and do nothing about it.
And have no intention.
And I'm always like, don't even bring it up unless you're actually going to take action.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's so sickening about it is people don't realize, but real estate is really easy.
It's so easy.
I mean, when you know your numbers, and it's so consistent. I mean, yeah, the market dips, but if you're doing buy and hold, it's not really going to affect your rents, especially if you're cash flowing well on your properties. So this is guaranteed money every year for the rest of your life, and rents only go up. Your property only appreciates. I mean, with all of that on top of your principal pay down, if you're leveraging and tax benefits and everything else, it's just crazy to me that these reps will go. They'll make six figures and they'll blow it all when that six figures could be a passive $20,000 that they're making every year for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So
no, and it's blowing my mind. And hopefully we've reiterated this principle of don't be an idiot with your money. He's going to be training on this a lot deeper at Door to Door Con, obviously. But so I guess another a piece of advice I guess you would give to a manager that just made decent money or whatever, like how much money do you think you'd realistically need to start with your first investment property?
So it's funny. I made this video because everyone asked that, and I showed people how you could make your first investment in real estate with $5,000. And that would be living in the property, but with $5,000 you could live completely rent free and be making money.
Yeah, so it's like put things into perspective. If I do door-to-door sales and I don't have an extra $5,000, first off, it's like you did it wrong.
Yeah. it's like reevaluate where you're at.
Yeah. First off, just like get trained and do it right. Do the job. I don't care if you're selling solar pest alarms, vacuums. I just hung out with some vacuum dudes out in Missouri. Dude, they were dope. I was like, Wesley, where were you my whole life? Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, if you're watching this, man, me and Glenn sold this fun. Anyway, so, but I'm sure they have an extra $5,000, and guess what? You're renting probably over 5 months. You're going to spend more than $5,000 in rent. That just went to the toilet. So let's do something about that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, anyway, sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, with $5,000, and that's the crazy thing is then your rent is free. And the whole thing I want people's mind to do is say, all right, if my rent's for free, that's more money that can go towards buying more real estate. I mean, every time you make a purchase and that's now giving you more passive income, that's filling your daily needs. I mean, your essentials to where that's just more money that can go to buying more property until you get to the point where you're in a six-figure or a big six-figure income coming from completely passive sources. Coming from real estate. And the thing I love about that is that's just cash flow. So you have this huge safety net of appreciation in your property, of principal pay down, of the depreciation that's going to be saving you on taxes on that money. Yep. And so there's so many advantages, and if people would just take advantage of it, a lot of these kids, seriously, we've got kids that in 3 years could have a six-figure income in passive income and be set. And then they can do sales because they love it, not because they have to.
And I think if you were to, like, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of good management leadership, and it's like, I always ask them, what's your biggest regret? If you could rewind 5 years ago and done something different, one of the biggest things is I wouldn't have blown all my money on a dumb car. I would have put more money into real estate. You know what I mean? And I look at, like, I even say that. I'm like, man, I got a lot into real estate, but I'm like, I would have been way more aggressive. Like, way more. Yeah. I would have been, like, lived even more poor, been more intricate and creative around it, you know.
Well, especially with our time frame. I mean, you know, we were smart, but we're feeling it looking back saying, holy cow, 2010, 2011, 2012, I wish I would have lived on ramen for those years and just bought a ton more real estate than I did.
And then like refi. Yeah. You know what I mean? Totally. So have you done that? So like, let's take the guy that has maybe 4 or 5 properties and he's like, well, freak, how do you get to 60? Like, you know what I mean? There's certain limitations on lending, and there's certain you know what I mean? So like, yeah, I guess, have you done the whole buy, let it build equity, or improve, get a new appraisal, refi?
So I've not refied. I've done one 1031 exchange,
okay,
which is just moving the money from one property out and putting it in. So I went from a $200,000 home, and the money from that property that I pulled out bought me a fourplex with 30% down on the fourplex, which I was bummed. I was like, man, like that's money I didn't even have to tie up.
Yeah, you're like,
but
I could have bought another property.
Yeah, but it's going from a $200,000 property to a $300,000 property that's cash flowing way better from rolling that over. And I'm just hitting the time now where a lot of those I'll start to do because I've used up a lot of the tax benefits of depreciating a lot of the stuff quicker.
Do you accelerate your depreciation?
Just on stuff like carpet, on the appliances, stuff like that. I'm still doing the, 28 and a half years on the actual building. But
because that guy I just spoke to was like, hey, you can accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And he's like, think if you brought a property, I don't know. He's like, do you really need the tax benefit? He's like, you could just keep rolling and keep doing it. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, too, that's cool about real estate is I am never going to pay taxes on a lot of that money because you just keep rolling it into new properties. The government incentivizes you to do that.
Speaking of some tax laws here. So I just got off the phone, Barb Burnett, give her a shout out. She's speaking and doing a workshop, but she blew my mind with some of the new tax reforms and how it affects that in a positive, but it's just different than it was even a year ago. Mm-hmm. And so she's training on her workshop on that because a lot of people go, well, how do I know I'm not going to get screwed on taxes and this and that? And there's so many tricks and tips and things to avoid paying the government, keep your money, I don't know. Anyway, so I think a lot of people just don't take the time to listen to a podcast like this and say, oh, wait, I can do that? Oh, yeah, if they could do it, I could do it,
Totally.
So I guess fast forward now, what's your why? What motivates you now? What's next? Like, what's your path?
I've told a lot of my reps. I've got reps that are family. Do you know what I mean? Reps, and I care about all of my reps, but there are definitely a lot of reps.
Is this a polygamous family? No, we are in Utah. I'm just kidding. We're not polygamous here. No. He's from Idaho. It's okay.
No, you're good. But things just really switched for me where I really want them to have that passive income.
Oh, so it's help inspiring them.
Yeah, because you think about it with my reps, if I can get them to that point, can you imagine when you do get to the point that it's like, all right, we've done this 15 years or however long you want to do summer sales, and it's like, all right, all of our buddies now could literally do whatever we want because money is not a thing.
And you're these 45-year-old just tools.
Yeah, seriously, doing
exactly.
whatever we want because we've gone through so much. I mean, the relationships you get in summer sales are absolutely incredible.
It's true.
And so if I could help all of these guys that have been loyal for years to get to that point, I think that would be the best thing ever. And I think that's like my biggest push right now is anyone that wants it, helping them get there.
It's so funny. And I admire you for this that mission because I've worked with some leaders off camera, right? And they say, my whole thing is I want them to spend all their money in the off season, so they therefore have to come back next year. Isn't that such an opposite?
Yeah, well, it's such.
Isn't that crazy? Have you heard that before, though?
Mm-hmm, totally, and I think that's what's so cool about investing in passive income is I don't think all those guys are bad guys, but I think they're spending their money where they're saying, I gotta get these guys back so I can support my lifestyle. And if you're not doing things to support your lifestyle, then you're set. And if you can help all your guys to do the same thing, I mean, the only thing better than being with all your buddies in summer sales is being with all your buddies in or out of summer sales because money is not a thing.
Yep.
Because you've helped hook them up with passive income.
It's not the question of, hey, can you come hang out this weekend down in wherever? Oh, I don't have gas money. It's more like, I'll hop on a plane tomorrow, I'll be there. You know what I mean?
It's like Hawaii this weekend?
Yeah, Hawaii,
let's do
exactly. And it's not a question of like, can I afford that? And it's so funny. Speaking of that, there was just a recent post, if you're listening to this or watching this morning, where a guy said, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to bring this up on podcast. Sorry, I don't even know who you were, but hashtag you're awesome. He's like, this whole door-to-door con thing's a scam. Why would I spend, it's way overpriced. I could never afford that anyway. He even like called himself out. And he was like, well, I don't have $200 to go throw around and spend at this conference or whatever. And I was like, what? Like, that is what door-to-door can create is I don't want to blink at $200. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's interesting that if we can take this job serious, and I'm not trying to rag on anybody, I'm just trying to say, like, if somebody said, hey, man, like, we're doing this dope thing in Hawaii in a week, it's like, I don't feel bad buying the last-minute week ticket. You know, it's like, it's in the account. Like, I got this. And I think that's inspiring, and it's like, I want other people to grab onto that mentality. And it's don't be dumb with your money. It's you were so smart with your money that you can be dumb with your money out of choice instead of out of like uneducated, dumb. You're just dumb.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I think with a conference like this, let's say it was for $1,000 and you were only selling it for 100, or you were selling it for 1,000. It was only worth 100 when they went there. That's still a much better investment than any of the other crap that a lot of these sales guys are buying.
Exactly.
And so it's like, look, even if you get one thing out of it, that's putting you further along. That's putting you ahead. That's setting you up. And I think the guys need to start investing in things like real estate and bettering themselves and putting themselves around good people, because
100%.
even if you grab onto someone, let's say they go to your conference and they don't get a single thing, they're going to meet someone that's going to make them better. And I just think it's garbage, because anything like that. I mean, I went to a conference last week for real estate and it blew my mind, and I went in really arrogant. I mean, I thought nobody else my age is going to have the properties I'm having and yada, yada, yada. And my mind was blown at all the different things that people are doing. And I think when you adopt that mindset, that's when you're going to hit where you want to be.
No, and I think it's so funny because people think that they already know everything. I literally sat down yesterday. I was demoing DDD University for this guy who runs this alarm company, and never really heard of him, never met him. And I was like, where the heck? His name's Brett. Anyway, he does 450 accounts every year. Like, who the hell are you? He's like, but this is what was impactful. He was like, you know what? I'm more excited about the university. I'm more excited about Door than I think I can get even all my guys about it. And I was like, that's so inspiring, because you've sold more than anybody that's trained on the university, yet he's still hungry enough to say, I'm excited to get this. And it was really cool. And I was like, well, let's get you on film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I was like, okay. No, but I get his point. It's the curiosity that I think a lot of the lower performers lack. And that's their impediment to up level, in my opinion.
Totally. Well, and I think also, and this is the thing you're trying to change in the industry, but it's easy to get in a selfish mindset where I really believe, even in summer sales, even though we don't feel that way, when you have a give mentality, you're going to be more successful. And a lot of that
100%.
comes to showing up, putting yourself out there, trying to share what you've done that's successful, and hoping that other people are willing to do the same. And if you're giving, they will too.
Love it. Well, dude, I just appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
I've had more fun off camera, you guys. We just bonded on a really powerful way. Not like in a weird way, but no, Chandler's an awesome dude. If you guys want to get to know him, add him or whatever, and then he'll be at the event, and excited to continue this relationship. I mean, we just met today. This was fun.
It'll be awesome.
Feel like brothers. I guess we're in the same tribe. We are brothers, dude.
Sure.
We're both knocked. So I always ask the last question, just in a couple words. If you had to give one piece of advice to the entire industry, what would it be?
I think just back, and this is kind of what I've been pitching lately, but just give to your reps, put them first, put other people first, because you're never going to find someone who's willing to give that they're not getting it back. And I just think that's a mindset with everything, whatever you're in, whether it's sales or any other job or your relationships or anything else. The more you give, the more you're going to get back. So do it for the right reasons, because it makes you happier too. I mean, guys, you won't find someone who's giving that's not stoked on life.
Love it. Love it. Okay, you guys heard it firsthand. Chandler, you're the man.
Cool.
Much
Thanks,
love.
man.